Welcome and it's headline roundup, and it's a beautiful day in Abuja, though with the Hamatan and blowing us haywire everywhere. How we are really looking at a better day. My name is Ikoku Chidoze Ikemba, and I have a very wonderful guest in the house, and his name is Mr. Adini, and welcome on the show.
It's a pleasure.
First, I'll be having to discuss with you on a very pertinent issue that I've actually garnered a little bit of discussion on the space. And we're looking at former Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Lasso, who decamped yesterday from Labour Party to the PDP. And what do you make of this?
Well, it's an interesting development. I'm sure you probably are looking at it coming from the performance that we saw over the weekend. If you follow through some of those comments, you realize that it seems some hearts are being won over. And I mean, where would you rather be? Would you rather be on the side that you think stands a chance, or would you want to rather gamble it and say, well, let me just be on this side, and of course, when things don't turn out the way you expect it to, you begin to complain, or you become a wailer, like some people have termed others to be. So it's quite an interesting development, and I think developments like this are things that we would see in the coming days. I mean, it's nothing new to the political space. For instance, people would defect, probably where you realize that the ideology that you thought a certain political party had seems not to be the ideology that they are practicing. We have seen certain controversies even rocking the party, for instance, in the coming days. And probably you also want to take it from the fact that you have the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives also coming from a place where he just contested elections in the state. And of course, as is expected, you see a new government takeover and an attempt to woo people onto the other side. Because trust me, I mean, it's not easy to be opposition in a state. Well, I'm sure we have cases where people have been in opposition and they have not fared so well being opposition in the state.
Exactly. Talking about opposition, he made mention of something that the Labour Party is an entertainment club, and tagging it as an entertainment club, I really want to say, is that not too harsh on the Labour Party?
Well, I mean, it may be going to the extreme, but you don't know what he has seen and what he experienced being a member of the party. You know, you only talk from experience, and so if you feel that activities in the party makes it look like the party is serious about what it intends to do, then of course it will show in the activities and in the body language of the party. But if it's showing otherwise, I mean, then for those that have been there, for those that have been involved, coming from a person like the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, he is within his own rights to say what he has said. It's now left for people who want to know why he has described the party in that term to go and try and find out what exactly he meant by with what he said.
Absolutely. Looking at that, the said former Deputy Speaker actually ran as a gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party. And looking at more defections, we are looking at former the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the person of Right Honorable Dogora, and who actually also decamped from the APC back to the PDP. And one would look at this situation. This is a man that has been all his life spending time with the APC, and now he's looking at it that, no, this APC is not the party to go with. This ambition of the presidential candidate is not one that I'm going to support. And he has taken a huge followership with him and said they have endorsed the presidential candidate of the PDP. The political scene is beginning to change, and the weather is beginning to look like is favoring the People's Democratic Party.
Well, I mean, you even started when you said the candidate, the former speaker himself spent a lot of time in the APC. But I want to also take you back that don't forget that he was also a member of the PDP at some point in time. Exactly. And you know that he spent quite a while at the House of Representatives. So he has tasted the two options. He has tasted the two options. And of course, you probably in his mind will be looking at, I mean, which is the best of options for him. Don't forget that his romance with even the PDP then, which was opposition when he became speaker at that point in time in 2015, probably also helped him clinch the reps seats back then, because you remember that even within his own party, he probably was not the original choice for him to be speaker.
Exactly.
You know, it appeared there was a sharing formula that they had then, and some people kicked against that sharing formula, and him and the Senate president at the 8th Assembly, they emerged. Exactly, they gained from that issue within the ranks of the party then. So, I mean, having had a taste of both parties and seeing that a certain direction at which the candidate of the APC seems to be taking may not be in the interest of majority of Nigeria. And I think it's a case of people having their convictions, their personal convictions. For instance, if you feel that something may not be in the interest of the country at this point in time, then why must you why do you go by it? I mean, if you feel that, look, this may have more impact, not in the right sense as we are speaking right now, that you should have a conviction and you should stand by it. And you remember when this controversy started, it showed that there were cracks even within their ranks, within the ranks of the party. And so when you had people speaking up, and it appeared that even that you would expect that these were critical stakeholders in the party. You talk about leading a certain bloc, but unfortunately they cried out. They said, look, if you had such dissenting voices, even within the ranks of your party, not to now talk of when it was a case of, you remember, even the PDP had reactions to it, and people said, oh, they are making noise because they were opposition. But you had people within your ranks of the party saying that, look, no, this may not be in the interest of the country. This is not what the country needs right now. And you decide to say that, look, they are dissenting voices. I mean, someone within the caliber of a person of a former speaker who has presided over how many majority of Nigerians being represented in the National Assembly at the level where he was represented, talking about people of different religious divides, be it Muslims, Christians. I don't know if we had pagans among them, because you know you cannot take away the traditional setting even away from our politicians and our leaders. Absolutely. And for you to just throw their concerns into the wind, of course, not. I mean, if you are talking about protecting the interest of Nigerians, I think within the ranks of your party, you should have started from within. Because if you cannot convince, Ikeba, is like you and I are having a debate and an argument, and you want me to take a certain side, and you cannot convince me wholeheartedly why you should take this belief, for instance, or why you feel that this is in the interest of, then how much more majority of Nigerians who are out there? Because Nigerians have said that, look, we need a sense of cohesion, we need a sense of unity, we need a sense of belonging, that yes, our interests are probably aligned with that. Look, everything that you are working towards, you are working towards the common goal of the good of the country, and not something that could create, because when you look at the current system that we operate today right now, there already seems to be a division. And how do you ensure that all of those barriers that are responsible for the division that we have found ourselves in, that you erase those barriers? And you do it when you make sense, because the statement that was made at that point in time, it's like you were trying to say, you don't have people of electoral value within that block that can also deliver votes for you.
Sorry, Mr. Play, sorry to cut you short, because I want to pick your thoughts on this. Looking at the direction and the assertions of members who actually have left to the APC, talking of the likes of Senator Dino Melaye and the likes of them, and it will be to seem like the APC always offers the candy that is poisoned, because you see most of them coming out and saying, please don't go back there. And that's the tone. And one is looking at the trend of this campaign. You've been seeing 3,000 people decamping, 5,000 decamping. And looking at the present-day Ondo campaign, you can see the likes of Renu, who was actually a very strong a very strong voice for the NSAS and also for the obedient movement. And now she's saying that this article is actually articulate, and he's speaking for something that is practical enough. And looking at just supposing it to comparison, what should you say that the APC is offering that people are beginning to throw them away and beginning to come to the PDP?
Well, like I said, it's not just the issue of the ideology. What do you stand for? How have you been able to live by what you say you stand for? It's also about the practicality of what you say you stand for. For instance, oh, you say you stand for progressiveness and all of that. And the question is, how far have we progressed as a country right now? Where would we describe the state, the Nigerian state right now? Have we progressed? Have we made steps forward? Or have we taken several steps backwards when you look at the reality of things? And 8 years, in fact, it's a long time in a lifespan. And I don't know how much longer it has been, even with the realities on ground that we have faced of the current administration. Now, it's all about practicality, it's all about performance, how you have been able to deliver on what you say you have for Nigerians. Nigerians want to be able to take your word for it and say, look, you promised us this, you promised us that. And it was expected that you were going to bring about the change that Nigerians wanted. But the question is, how much of that change have they seen? How much of those promises have been kept? So if you cannot stick by what you say, and look, you don't even need a paper, you don't need manifesto, you don't need the likes for you to showcase that, yes, this is what you said and this is... Nigerians will see it. If it's working for them, sure, they will stay with you. If it's not working for you, for them, what else do you... What's the other reason for them to want to stay with you for?
They move to where else they
move to where they believe. And look, you need to begin to look at the fact that people's confidence in where they go is based on what they have seen, what they have felt before. It's like you have it in the... And it's nothing new to Nigeria. When you talk about people... maybe you say people defecting on this large scale is where you are saying. But you have it in the United States, for instance. When you talk about both the Democrats, you talk about the Republican Party as well, you find out that, look, if they are not satisfied, nothing is guaranteed in the US. And it should be the same. If you have governance, should be about the choice of the people. It should be about the will of the people. If the people are not satisfied with your performance, why should they give you another opportunity? Are you saying we should reinforce failure? Why should we reinforce failure? No, it's like you are in the school. Let me just give this. You are in school, for instance, and you do not perform well. What happens to you?
You should be expecting the reprimanding of
nobody will give you a promotion that you do not deserve. Exactly, if you do not perform well, either you are forced to stay back or... So I think that is the same way we should treat our political setting. If it happens in the US where a president may necessarily... it's in Nigeria that we have this mentality that, because the Constitution says you have to spend a constitutional limit of 2 terms, some people think that it is their birthright, that you can spend a single term of 4 years and you will be re-elected again, whether you perform or you do not perform. That's the irony of the system that we operate. But in the United States, for instance, whether you are a Republican, you get into the war. It appears the Republicans always seem to have a strong grip of power. Whether you are a Republican or you are a Democrat, if you do not perform, you are shown the way out. Yes, the Constitution, I remember it was even as bad as the days of Roosevelt, where he spent how many terms? He was one of the longest serving presidents in the United States. Yeah. But it doesn't give you the luxury to say that, because you think the Constitution guarantees you the 2-term limit in office, then you can die in office, whether you are doing well or you are not doing well. The moment the people realize that you are not performing, look, you are shown the way out. And the truth is, if they decide not to show you the way out, whatever comes out of whatever you expect, you are getting, then at the end of the day, you don't blame anybody, because you have been presented with options. The question is, how do you make use of those options that have been available to you? You have tested people before. What was the situation like when they were in office? You have tested a new set of people. What is the situation right now? Do you go back to your vomit, or do you go back and say, look, let's have a retrospect? How were things done in the past? How were things now? If we give these people a chance, will our lives not be better off than where it currently is? I think these are the things that Nigerians should take a perspective on.
Well, Mr. Adeni, let's move on to the next story, and that's talking about the outing of the People's Democratic Party and his candidate, Atiku, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, at the Tafawa Balewa Square yesterday. And when we were talking about performance, looking at Lagos and looking at his utterances yesterday, even building up to the moment of the campaign, it was actually adjudged that most of the buses were not picking up PDP faithfuls to the venue, and most of the buses were actually locked out of the means of transportation for members going to work. And what you said, once you mention that you're going to TBS, they are not taking you to that direction. Members of the party, faithful Lagos citizens, had to actually walk down to the venue of this. And at the venue, Alhaji Atiku made mention of something that with what he has seen in Lagos, it's obvious that Tinubu never followed the template of the forefathers of Lagos to actually develop Lagos. What exactly do you have to say?
Well, you know that's an interesting point to raise, because in recent times we have always heard, oh, this person responsible for the development of Lagos and this and that. And yes, even when you say the responsible for the development in Lagos, well, you also want to ask yourself, does that also mean that the person should be responsible for the as a major beneficiary of the financial purse for as long as the person lives in that particular state? Because when you talk about development, the question is, can only one man be responsible for the development of a place? And you take it as far, can only one man take that credit? Because don't forget that before he became the governor of Lagos, Lagos existed. Exactly. Before he became the governor of Lagos, or even a senator, there were leaders in Lagos that existed. Can we take you to the days of the Buba Marwas? Can we take you to the days of Lateef Jakonde? I mean, look at some of the housing schemes that Lateef Jakonde in the 80s
still existing.
Are they not still in existence? Let's look at Lagos of, yes, nobody will say that nothing happened. I mean, of course, we know what really happened. The current development of Lagos. We talk about development of Lagos. You know, another thing that was said was the fact that the people will take ownership of Lagos as against one person, deciding the fate of Lagos. You know, and this is someone that says, look, he has electoral values and he preaches electoral values, but you have not allowed other people to shine in a place like that, except they come from within your ranks. And you ask yourself, I mean, what kind of development are we really talking about when you say one person is responsible for Lagos? And the development, what has that translated to? Because when you talk about development in Lagos, look at all of the resources that Lagos has. Lagos as a state can single-handedly take care of itself. I hope you know, Lagos, when you talk about in terms of revenue that Lagos generates, Lagos as a state can take care of itself. Lagos, what stops Lagos from being the California of the United States? What stops Lagos from being the Los Angeles of the United States? But the truth is, yes, in as much as some people pride themselves as being responsible for the development in the state, they are also taking what belongs to the state for their own personal enrichment. And you talk about all of the funds, all of the revenue that has come from that state. Can we lay claims to say that the level of work that has gone in that place is in tandem with the amount that the state itself generates? The face of Lagos as it is right now, could Lagos not have been better? Because you are talking about the center of excellence. You are talking about the commercial nerve center of the country. Where was Lagos in the past? Where is Lagos now? The level of development that we should see in Lagos, has that really translated to what it should be? Or because certain resources are being diverted,
channeled to one man's purse,
to certain people's individuals' purses? Is that the reason why we have not seen that level of... Because when you talk about certain situations that Lagos are always had in the past, the issue of traffic is still there. You know how many hours people spend in Lagos?
You just mentioned something very, very important.
Yes.
And I think people should be reminded that history should not be truncated. And we should always pay attention to our history. And I'm glad that history has returned back to our classroom. And that's talking about the former general, Muhammad Buhari, who actually truncated the monorail by Lateef Jakonde, the then governor of Lagos State, and jailed him unlawfully. And looking at the same man is the present day president of our country. And Ahmed Tinubu is telling Nigerians that he's going to actually bring back and start off from where Buhari actually stopped. I think we need to revisit history from that angle.
So sometimes when you say you want to go back and continue, the question is, where did they actually stop? Where are we continuing from? Or do we want to change the current narrative and improve or do better than what it currently is today? Because whether you like it or not, look, yes, it's good to have a master plan, but that master plan cannot just emanate from someone. Some people have started the work, and the truth is, except you don't want your state to progress forward, even though for a lot of people, they will tell you that, look, the Lagos state that they are seeing today right now, there are a lot more potentials that should have been seen. But unfortunately, when people look out for their own interest more, and they don't look at how the citizens, because when you talk about the rural setting in Lagos, for instance, there are people that are still living in the slums in Lagos. So the question is, can we do more? Can we do better? And that's why the people should be giving, because that's another thing that the PDP candidate said in Lagos yesterday, that it's not going to be about one person determining. I think the people of the state have come to a time when they need to now be allowed to make their own choice as to who they want to lead them, so that they can even progress further than where they currently are.
Mr. Adeni, I really don't want us to overflog the issue about the rebuilding and the master plan, because everyone in Lagos are aware that Lateef Jakonde actually gave Lagos State a lovely and actually a short, medium and long-term plan for his master plan. And if it has been followed up till today, I think the issue of transportation, how it's actually been building up of traffic and all that, should actually be a thing of the past. But what we see is one man fixing up tax offices around Lagos and collecting from every nook and cranny.
They're taxing people for roads.
For roads.
The roads that people
even
have
taxing
to suffer
people living in the slums.
For.
And you call it, and when during Lateef Jakonde's time, we had what they call low-cost housing, whereby civil service people actually had to move down there and actually come to work from there. And it's actually low cost, not what we have in Lagos today. I think with 1 million naira in Ikeja, you cannot get a flat of 2-bedroom flat, and you call it a metropolitan state whereby everybody can actually access everything.
And anybody can own or have a property in Lagos.
But in Lagos, you know the truth of the day, you cannot. You have to go back to Baba Sokwe and actually come back to get what you want. Yeah. Let's move to another very interesting headline that actually made news over last night. That's talking about the outing of Tinubu at the Chatham House. It's actually absurd and actually ridiculous that one who is claiming to be the presidential candidate of a ruling party would actually go out of the country to actually speak to foreigners and not speak to those who are actually the electorates who are actually going to be voting. And he made a mess of it yesterday. And you could see that what the template is trying to paint to Nigerians is that he's actually going to be acting through proxies and not direct. And that's what we actually will be clamoring for, that we want a leader that will lead from the front. Not what Muhammad Buhari told us, that he's going to lead from the front, and he's in Aso actually using the toothpick to remove whatever he has in his mouth. So we are looking at the Chatham House event yesterday. I would like us to actually show our viewers this. Then we'll come back to discuss about it.
Unbreakable team. To demonstrate that, I will choose the first question, assign it to Dele Alake.
Okay.
And the second question, assign to Nasiru El-Rufai. And third question, assigned to Ben Ayade.
All right, so can we have a microphone coming in the front? And the first question is about blood oil. Oil.
Wow. I'm lost of words to see what a presidential candidate is going out there in the UK and making a mess of his candidacy. And one will look at it that we are not actually getting it right when it comes to campaign season, because the time for diplomacy is going to come. It's not the time for campaign, then you jet out of the country to go make a mess of yourself. And you could see the body language of El-Rufai and others, how they were shifting from one part of their buttocks to the other, looking at what their candidates are actually trying to do. Even when it was passed the paper to actually indicate that what you're doing is not actually the playbook. I don't know if you were the presidential candidate of a party, if this was going to be your attitude, your disposition, or your character.
Well, unfortunately, those that you've mentioned were put in a spot that they could easily get away from, and I think they should have. It's something that they knew they should have seen coming, and they should have known that. They signed up for, especially when you look at all that we have seen in recent times. You had an opportunity to speak to people in Nigeria where they said, "Oh, come and debate, come and talk to your people." You said, you said, well, no, you will not be blackmailed because you think there is a certain form of bias against you. And then the question is, where would you have fared better? Would you have fared better when you had an opportunity to speak to Nigerians? And maybe Nigerians would have even said, "Oh, okay, we understand this, we understand that." As against when you now have to travel outside the country, and then there was an avenue that was created for you, an environment that you felt you wanted to get relaxed in, and you still could not deliver as expected. I mean, look at other candidates, for instance, that were grilled on Sunday over the weekend. They all, how many hours did they have? They had over 2 hours, and they were being interrogated, they were being interviewed, and there was nothing like proxies. I remember, now people are justifying the issue of proxies. You remember when His Excellency Governor Okowa was told to stand in for the presidential candidate the first time because they didn't want to miss participating in the interview. You saw what happened, but at the end of the day, he was still able to represent his principal, and of course, you saw the kind of outing that he had. The reason you talked about people defecting in recent times, I mean, you also saw the candidates of the PDP talking about Atiku Abubakar also speaking over the weekend. And you saw, probably it changed the mindset a lot of people, and probably this is why you are seeing the reactions of people moving over and saying, I mean, this is someone that was able to really articulate. I mean, it's interesting I have to use that term even in the studio. Speak out on issues and talk about the plans and all that he had to offer. And you see what that does, even for people that are saying that, look, these are the kind of people who want to give the number one job to lead, not people that will run us by proxies. People, you could not even answer one single question. And people begin to raise questions on your ability. But it's the present day Nigeria that we have right now. Are we being led by the people that we voted into office, or are we being led by people who use the name and say, "Oh, look, it is"? And you see, that's the problem we always have with getting things right in this country, because people do and undo when they are given power, and because you have given room for proxies to operate, they can just easily say, "Oh, this person said, the president said," and probably the president did not say it. And of course, you see how that takes a toll on governance and its impact here in Nigeria.
You're correct. Because Buhari actually also denied his manifesto and said he was not.
Several promises were made in 2015.
And he said he was not aware.
So did you make those promises, or did people make those promises on your behalf? And were those promises made with the intention of those saying, "Oh, this is what Nigerians want to hear," and at the end of the day, you do not fulfill the promise? And that is why we have a situation where when a problem arises, nobody is willing to take the blame. Nobody wants to take the responsibility. "Oh, it is not what we said. It is this person that is responsible. It is that person that is responsible." So you continue to pass the bulk of the blame on people rather than take responsibility and say, like, "Look, you promised people this, and this is what people are getting. You promised people change." And I don't know how much of the change the people are witnessing currently, or is it the other side of it? So look, even if you are going to act by proxies, it should even be at the level where you think you have even been elected to start with. Exactly. But not at the point where you are trying to get Nigerians to key into your agenda, to key into what your plans are. You are selling yourself to Nigerians. If it was a case of people are selling you to Nigerians, what happened yesterday would have been a different conversation. But you said you want to have your own opportunity to sell yourself to Nigerians. Nigerians wanted to hear, "Oh, what do you have to offer?" Since you said that you don't need to talk to Nigerians directly, they wanted to hear what you had to offer, and you had an opportunity to do it before the international community. And I don't think the international community itself also got the best of what they went there for, because questions were asked at you directly. I think it says a lot about your capability, your competence, and your ability for the job that you are vying for.
My next question actually going to be talking about where you're going to, the direction you're taking this question. So, funny enough, yesterday at Chatham House out, and it was actually, I would say, the least I would say yesterday was a ridiculous statement by the APC presidential candidate. A journalist asked him a very, very critical question, that are you going to be ruling Nigeria through proxies? Are you going to be engaging Nigerians through proxies? And his response was damning when he said that he does not want the media to use him for money. I think that is an indictment on even on him, because he also has a media house. And one would expect a presidential candidate of his caliber, of his personnel, that you should not be approaching issues in a manner that speaks ill of Nigerian media houses. How would you actually be saying that Nigerian media houses want to use you to make money? I don't know. You are an expert and a professional in this field. Probably you should educate us more on how media houses use presidential candidates to make money.
Well, I wish we had gotten further education on that, because I mean, I don't know to whose advantage it is that you are marketing that you tell someone, come on our platform and then let's use the platform for you to speak. I mean, if it was a case of, oh, they are charging you for it, it's a different conversation. But you are not even being charged for it. Normally,
asking you to come and speak.
They just ask you, they say, come and speak to Nigerians, and you say, I mean, how much are they really going to make of the candidate, for instance? If it was about the candidates coming and he tell you, oh, yeah, he's coming to speak, or is it by the amount of traffic you think that the person that is going to make money? No, the media has made itself available to you. And it is for you to take advantage of the situation, not to reduce them to as if they do not matter, because that seems to be the conversation that we hear when the other side is being called upon. And what they don't realize is that it's the same opportunity that is being given to you that others are also giving. But some people take advantage more, like the PDP presidential candidate. I don't think he has declined any opportunity to really interact with Nigerians the way they expect. So when you see a candidate saying, oh, because they want to make money, I think that's a wrong narrative to sell. Or when you feel that, oh, you do not, it's like they don't have the right to want to ask you. I mean, in a democracy, for instance, who does that? Even the former president of the United States done. You know, I make such references because we say we copy the Western world when it comes to democracy and its practices. The former president of the United States, no matter how much he called the media the fake news media, he also used the same media for his own popularity. He also was speaking to the media, whether he liked them or he did not like them. You talk about, the candidate complained about social media the other day, and he said, look, he said, that's part of what comes with the office that you are vying for. If you cannot take all of these things that is being thrown at you, then what kind of space are you expecting these various groups to operate within? For instance, we talked about press freedom. How much of press freedom is going to be tolerated when you get into office? Because we used to have a day in
press freedom when we have MC Olomo.
I don't know how you will make reference to that, but you looked at the era of 1999. We used to even have media chats, for crying out loud, where the president will take time. You know how busy it will be from this kind of the in 1999 under the government of the party, where they will come out and they will say, look, we want to interact with Nigerians. And that was an opportunity for them to speak to the issues that probably Nigerians lacked understanding for. So if Nigerians are now telling you to speak directly to them, and you're already showing them the signs that, look, nobody is saying government is a one-man show, but at the point where there is the need for you to delegate, there is room for you to delegate. But at the point where Nigerians want you to speak directly to them, and Nigerians are giving you the platform, I don't think it is something you should throw away. I don't think it is something any serious candidate should waste on, because it's like you're telling them that their opinions about you do not matter, that they do not matter in this. So who exactly are you speaking to if you are not willing to speak to the generality of the population whose vote you say you want going into the elections? I think that mindset and that narrative needs to change going forward.
So looking at this issue that is going on with the campaign and other events that have been occurring around the country, one that actually, before we go, I would like to actually draw your attention to the campaign so far. And looking at Lagos has been recovered. And fully recovered is actually Osun. And we have a new governor of the PDP in that party, and that's a person of His Excellency, Governor Ademola Adeleke. And tomorrow we're going to be having Atiku and the Recover Nigeria team in that state. What's the mood? How do you see PDP going up? Because judging from the fact that I made reference to MC Oluomo, we used to have the state boys in Osun State, whereby you could not say anything or do anything against the then governor. They're actually going to be taking a report directly to him because he then was the emperor. But now we have a more liberal governor that is saying everybody should come to me and let us do it together. And that's the mantra of His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate. And tomorrow is Osun State. What's your take on this?
Well, one would say the party had a good outing in Lagos, and of course, a lot of people would expect. I mean, it's like the party is going back to one of its base, talking about Osun State. You remember there was a massive campaign that the party had in Osun State, and of course, it has now given the party the victory. So I think the party would want to take advantage of that, and of course, use that to, because a lot of people have said that what happens in elections in certain places also tailors towards what we are likely to see in subsequent elections. So I think it's going to be an opportunity for them to really sell their plans and their mandate for the people, and of course see how they can use that to rally around the other states within that same region to their own advantage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Denny, and thank you for coming on the show. It's been a wonderful time speaking with you, and your analytics has actually thrown more light to what Nigerians actually were expecting to know and hear. And that's the much we can take for today on the Headline Roundup. Join us again tomorrow on another wonderful and in-depth analysis of issues that actually will be surfacing on the media spaces tomorrow. Thank you very much. My name is Iko Kuchidoze Ikemba, and joining me again tomorrow on another exciting time. It's AtikuLive.